Hi, welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, we're checking out this monster from HPI Racing. It's the Venture Wayfinder, a 4x4 crawler, and since the weather has finally changed in the UK, we can actually take it out and give it a bit of a go without freezing our canoolies off. Yeah, all right. Anyway, this retails in the UK for £349 and it's part number 160510. Now, there's two colours you can get. You can get the gunmetal grey and the one that I've got, which is the bright orange one. So let's unbox it, take a look at it and see what you get for your money. And it seems to be quite a lot. Oh, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to all the RCKicks patrons who help sponsor the show and for everybody who takes part in the RCKicks raffles. Believe it or not, running a channel can get rather expensive. Case in point, my old trusty GoPro kind of bit the dirt a little bit, so I had to buy a new one. Also, a lot of my racing footage when I go to the local RC club is a bit potato. Whoa. Oh, that'll do it. Because of the lighting effects, and also the cars are moving really fast. So thanks to you, I've managed to invest in a brand new state-of-the-art one which has got much better low light capability. So when we take cars out crawling and I go racing, now I can get you some even better high quality images. Now this stuff works out to be really expensive and I just couldn't do it without your help. So a massive thanks very much. Also, we're getting really close to 40,000 subscribers now, so I should be able to do a giveaway really soon, so stay tuned and I'll put out a dedicated video when we hit the 40,000. So this is a total RTR. You get everything you need to get up and running. You even get AA batteries for the transmitter. You get a NIMH 2000 milliamp battery with a Tamiya connector. You get a charger. Also, they've put in adapters for different countries, but the UK adapter is in there as well. Then you get another pack of parts. Now these parts are so you can change the position of the battery location. You can have 50-50 where you have the battery basically in the middle, or you can move the battery right up to the front over the front wheels, which I really like, and everything you need to make those changes for those three positions are actually supplied with it. The transmitter is a monstrous thing. It is huge. It's absolutely massive. But it's got foam. I'm not quite sure why it's so big, but it's got a fold down aerial on the top. Now, if you're going on the trails, yeah, maybe this is a little bit bigger than what you want, but it doesn't feel super cheap. It does feel, you know, the plastics are reasonable, and then you get a big power switch on the back. But why it's so big? Yeah, it just is. And then you get the actual truck itself. Now from the body, they've actually given you quite a lot of bits and pieces for the detail. You've got a bumper on the front, you've got hitches, you've also got wing mirrors. I thought they folded. No, they seem to be solid. So you get wing mirrors, then you get skid plates along the bottom. And you get a roof rack. Now you can actually move this around a little bit and you can actually pop this off as well. And at the back you get an extra tyre that is a full functioning tyre, and it's on a like swing mount, so you can kind of swing it out, and it also holds the part of the body in place to give it another anchor point. So that's pretty good, which makes it much more kind of fitted, which I really like. And then you get the rear bumper and rear hitches. What I do like about the roof rack, not that you can just put some scale stuff on it, but also when you roll it over, if you roll it over when you're crawling, that's going to stop the body from getting really damaged. And having the big wing mirrors again is protecting the side as well. So hopefully the actual body is going to not take too much of a beating from the skid bars to here, and then the back of it is okay, and then the front as well. So I do quite like that. Obviously the actual shape of the body, it's very kind of American style. The only thing I would have liked from this would be, because it's quite big and chunky, you can see inside really easy. Now it is a plus that they've given you windows that you can see through instead of just having blacked out windows, which I like, but it would be nice to step it up and put some kind of interior in it, But that's something you can do yourself, but it would have been real nice to see. But at this price point, that's kind of normal. Alternatively, I would think maybe if I wasn't going to do that, I would smoke out the windows a little bit more just to make it a little bit darker. As you can see right inside, and it's just massive and there's not a lot there. But the actual quality of the body feels fine. The graphics, yeah, I quite like it. I prefer it in the orange myself because the orange really pops, but it's just personal choice whether you like this kind of chunky American style truck. So just before we take the body off, I just wanted to talk about the departure and approach angles with this body. The actual front, you're going to rub on something that's vertical before you're going to get your tyres on it, obviously. But with a lot of kind of friction on the back, it's going to slide up, I think. And then you'll be able to get the front tyres on the face, and then you'll be able to pull yourself up. A huge, great big tyre on the rear. Now you can take it off and leave the mount in place, which is going to improve that. It depends how serious you want to go crawling versus trail trucking. So whether you end up modifying the body, I'm pretty sure you probably will. Anyway, let's take the body off and look at the chassis. And this is where they've really put most of their time and effort. Right, let's take the body off and have a look. So you've got 4 clips, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. When you take the body off, you'll notice that there is the clips holding the actual roof rack into place. There's a lot to cover here, so we'll start with the electronics first. Just turn it around a little bit. So we've already covered that the battery can be in 3 positions, going right from back, middle, and then to the front, which is going to give you the most amount of weight over the front. That I really like. That's a lot of effort that's gone into that to make it work. Now it has a 35-turn crawler motor, brushed, not brushless. Now the ESC is 2 to 3S 60 amp burst 360 amp. It's 3S. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this handles on 3S, but we'll get there in the end. The servo is water resistant, and that's one thing that's a little bit strange about this. The ESC is waterproof, the receiver is waterproof and in a box, but the servo is not waterproof, it's water resistant. So if you're going to be driving this under any kind of real water, that is going to need to change, and I'm quite surprised. But also water resistant and waterproof, yeah, so you might end up having to change your servo as well. As for the tyres, yeah, they're pretty soft. They seem, yeah, fine. I don't think I have any issues with them at all. You've got a little bit of side grip there, so if you're rubbing up against stuff, you're going to still be able to get some traction. They are not super soft, but they're not bad. Actually, they're okay. The rims themselves are kind of beadlock style, but they're not beadlock, they're just a hub. Shocks oil filled, and they are a 2-stage shock, which is really nice to see. You've got the lower section and then the upper section, so you've got very soft and then it gets progressively harder, and that I really like. The actual shocks feel good straight out the box. They feel reasonably soft. You've got a little bit of droop there as well, which is quite nice. Another thing I really like is the pumpkin, and the actual shock mounts are all metal. Bearings throughout, if I haven't said that already. Then you've got a panhard bar as well. Another thing that's really nice is the steering is behind the axle, so it's nice and clear. We don't have any issues with that at all. One thing that's really nice to see is the stereo has 0 Ackerman, which means that the actual turn to the right and turn to the left are exactly the same. Also, the steering bar is metal, as are all the links as well. So you've got alloy links at the front, and then you've got 4 links at the back, and then you've got 3 at the front. So this has a slipper clutch. The slipper comes out, the drive goes to the center, and then you've got the central transfer case, which then transfers the power down the drive shafts. They are low angle drive shafts as well, so they don't stick lower, they're marginally lower. So you get a solid axle rear, and on the front you actually get universals as standard. Now there's 3 actual upgrades that you get in this kit. The option parts they've added. One is the front universal drive shafts, like I've just mentioned. Then the 6mm aluminium drive links. That's another one. and a 4-link rear as well. One thing this truck doesn't have is portal axles. The wheelbase on the truck, you've got the options of 290 to 315 millimeters. You can actually adjust the positioning of the shocks as well. So if you're thinking about putting a different body on it, or something that's going to be a bit more hardcore for proper rock crawling, this is going to give you that flexibility. The diffs on this are locked. You can't swap between the two of them. So obviously if you're going to be doing some crawling, that's going to help you out, or you're in deep mud and things like that. So all in all, it's got quite a few bells and whistles on it. So next thing we can do is fire it up and take it for a bit of a spin. So I've been itching to get this one out, but the weather has been shocking. Now, unfortunately, when you're trying to record audio and the wind is 35 miles an hour, you don't get any. So unfortunately, I had to remove all the audio that I recorded while I was out. I tried to actually do commentary and the whole lot was a total disaster. Anyway, my plan is that because this has got locked diffs, I wanted to actually do it on the trail and see how it behaves just going trail driving. Also, later on in the end of this video, I do a little bit of mild rock crawling just to see what it's like. Now, I haven't adjusted anything, I haven't changed anything at all. One thing that I did find that was a little bit of an issue is the servo is not centered. It's really far off to one side. So when I was truing up the steering to make sure it went in a straight line, I was running out on one side versus the other. So really it needs to be centered and the servo reset again. Something that I guess was just missed when this car was put together. Not a big deal, but just something that I noticed. Now, because of the terrible weather, I found some fantastic things to drive on, so we took it on this muddy field, and I was really surprised. It actually handled brilliantly. Now, it had an NIMH battery in it, so it had a little bit more weight, which I think it preferred. But the suspension was set up just right. It wasn't too hard and it wasn't too soft, so I was really impressed with that. No issues with driving across the grass, as long as it's not too long, obviously. So apart from the servo not being centered properly, actually the servo that was in it was reasonably good. I didn't have any issues with it at all. Not sure how long it will last, but it was powerful enough to get the car out of trouble sometimes, and I could also rewrite the car, especially on the 3S, which I'll show you later. Right, there's a little bit of a puddle stream thing going on due to it just raining, so I thought, hey, let's take it in the real muddy wet stuff and see how it performs. Now, being that it's got kit tyres, it hasn't got aftermarket tyres, and this is just straight out of the box, I was very surprised how well it could deal with this. It was very muddy, very sticky, and I just thought there's no way it's actually going to get through this, but it did it pretty easily. Now, because of that servo not being totally waterproof, I wouldn't really recommend going any deeper than something like this, but I was really surprised. It handled this really well. You can see it just pulled itself straight out. There's no trickery in that. It did it a few times while I was playing around. I was pretty surprised at the kit electronics. Didn't feel that I needed to rush out and change anything, and the ESC on how smooth it felt didn't feel cheap or nasty. Now, I'm only really showing you some clips of this, but I actually messed around here for a good 20 minutes or so, and I had a great time. So let's go back onto a trail, and then we'll try 3S and see whether it's stupidly too fast, or whether running 3S is a better option than running a 2S or an NIMH. So I think running this on 2S, or be that a LiPo or the NIMH you get in it, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with the performance of it. But let's throw in a 3S and see just how well this chassis handles that extra power. It can get a little bit stupid sometimes, so I don't know whether running just standard 2S would be a better option for this truck. What normally happens is it tends to fly along and then it just rolls over constantly and you slowly destroy your body, and it doesn't really feel very scale. But hey, let's see. One thing that would be nice would be to get rid of these body clips. When you're out in the field and then you're taking the body off, losing body pins is a right faff. So all the footage you're going to see from now on is going to be 3S, and yeah, it's pretty bonkers. But I did find that if you were a lot more gentle with the trigger, you could still drive it very much like 2S. But you had that little bit extra power that if you're actually on the trails and you want it to go further ahead of you or behind you, then yeah, I can see you using this. One thing that surprised me so much was how quick you could jump from going forward to backwards. It was really surprising. This is obviously me using the servo. Yeah, this is not really scale, is it? But it does add a lot more fun to it. So hey, it's personal choice whether you'd like to have the more scale speeds or whether you just want to go out and have some fun. But running it on 3S, it was manageable. I wouldn't say it's a little bit bonkers, but it's not totally out of control. So I think HPI Racing did a pretty decent job, and you can see that the chassis has real potential. It doesn't feel cheap or nasty in any way. I think it will come down to whether you like this body or not, as I think it's a little bit of a Marmite one. Personally, it's not my favourite, but I do love the colour. But the chassis itself, I think, has lots of potential. So if you were looking to expand your crawling or rock crawling kind of hobby, changing up the body and putting something a little bit more competitive on it, or just going with something else, is definitely an option. So the weather was getting worse and worse as the day went on. Well, until right at the end where the sun came out. That's just typical. So I've taken the rig and I'm out in my back garden. I've just got this rockery bit where there was a fountain. So it's not exactly a fully fledged rock crawling course, but it's more challenging than you think. And the amount of times you can get rigs hung up on these rocks is surprising, as you have such a drop down to a flat base and then you just have the rocks jutting up. And they kind of spread out enough that the car can drop in and out of the gaps. Now I've driven quite a few 4x4s around here, and this one performed above average. I don't think it was let down in any way whatsoever. The kit tyres that come with this, I was pleasantly surprised. Normally one of the first things you'd do is run out and buy some aftermarket softer tyres, but these pretty decent to be fair.